Thank you for the opportunity to discuss DWR's perspective on managing water in the North Coast region. And thank you for allowing me to participate in this conference. I've gotten a lot of information from the speakers in the last 2 days and really enjoyed the taste of Humboldt County last night. So thank you. So by the end of my talk, I hope to, number one, give you a better idea of how DWR is helping to manage water issues in North Coast region and statewide. Number two is what the difference is between CDEC and Water Data Library. And number three is why you don't push a red button when you're in the middle of a boring meeting. So if I don't, I'll cover that by the end. So I really want to express my appreciation to all the folks that are on the ground doing projects. The presentation that Adrian gave yesterday, it's when you look at the timeline of starts and stops and bond issues, it's like I have been there. So in 2005, I was responsible for implementing a CalFed project where we were giving these landowners $1 million to replace a washed out diversion structure that they could no longer get their water right from. And you would think that would be the easiest project in the world, but 2 of the landowners didn't get along, 1 of the landowners didn't like the other 2, and you get into this thing where it just becomes your life to get this project implemented, and you think if I just take this one more step, the light will shine or something will happen, bonds will get unfrozen, and 2 years later you're just exhausted. And you don't, and on this project it got to be where it was literally like the day where we had to sign the access permits or the whole thing's 2 years of work's going to fall apart, and we're all just sitting around the table looking at each other, who's going to blink first? And luckily somebody blinked. We got the project signed and we got it implemented, but I can feel your pain in trying to get those, and you should give yourselves a big round of applause for your perseverance and diligence of getting these projects done. So a little bit of background on DWR. So we're an agency under the California Natural Resources Agency. We have about 3,500 employees, headquarters down in Sacramento. We major responsibilities are operate and maintain the state water project, provide public safety through flood management responsibilities and through safety of dams. So you get a lot of questions about, I don't know what agency to go to. If it's regulatory and it's not safety of dams, then it's not going to be DWR. And that's kind of one thing that I kind of like, is we don't have to deal with a lot of the regulatory stuff that other agencies do. We update the California Water Plan every 5 years, which we're in the process. We just, as Tracy mentioned, we just came out with a draft report, and that's starting to come out. We collect and manage water data, and that's really the heart and soul of the regional offices where I work in Red Bluff. And then we respond to other water-related emergencies such as flood or droughts in California. So the Northern Region office is located in Red Bluff. So basically, if you go down south on 101 about 5 miles, turn left on Highway 36, and go around 399 curves, you'll come to the town of Red Bluff, and we're about 2 blocks from where 36 enters Red Bluff right there. So Northern Region office, we cover the 13 Northern California counties. In the North Coast region, we cover all the way down to the middle of the north side of Mendocino County. And then we have the North Central Region office in West Sacramento, which covers Central California, which covers the south part of the North Coast region there. So we have Northern Region office, North Central Region office in Sacramento, South Central Region office in Fresno, and the Southern Region office in Glendale down in LA. And so the 4 regional offices, along with Tracy's branch and Chris McCready's branch, make up the Division of Integrated Regional Water Management. So we're really responsible for on-the-ground implementing IRWM for the department. And so Northern Region office, I'm really proud to work there. I've worked there for 23 years. I started there as a student. I got sent out to High and Palm to survey cross sections on the South Fork of the Trinity River. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm never leaving this job. But we have a really team of dedicated employees that have disciplines such as engineers, geologists, environmental scientists, land and water use scientists, technicians, and the administrative support. So about 65 employees that are in the office. So I want to start my overview kind of on the statewide level and then move into management issues here in the North Coast. So one of the biggest water issues facing the state of California is the regulatory restrictions on moving water from Northern California, where it falls, to the place of most use in Southern California, right through one of the most important estuaries on the west coast of California. And so the department right now is working hard on the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. And most people hear about this as being the Twin Tunnels, Jerry's Tunnels, all that. But it's actually 21 conservation measures, one of which is the improvement in conveyance. So there's actually a lot of other things to try. As Tracy showed that one graphic where we went from this old way of doing it to more sustainable. And this is our attempt at not just picking a project to move water to Southern California most efficiently, but how can we look at it from an ecosystem standpoint and figure that part out and add the water conveyance part of it into it. So I know the media really stresses the tunnel part of it, but there's way more about that project than just the tunnels, and I invite you to look into it more if you want more information. And there is a connection to the North Coast, obviously, as been mentioned, through the Trinity River division of the Central Valley Project, where we export water out of the Trinity River into the Central Valley. Another statewide regional project is the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan, and this really got the attention once Katrina hit New Orleans, and we looked at what the flood protection was for major metropolitan areas in the Central Valley. And so this was a major accomplishment by the Department of Water Resources. We came up with a report that was adopted by the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. And it's kind of a unique project where the state looked at what its responsibilities are and the federal responsibilities for ensuring flood control protection. But then we broke it into 5 or 6 regions, and then we're meeting with local people to get their input on what their local projects are. And some of those local projects may not fit into the system-wide approach that we're responsible for, but at least we'll document that. And if they do have projects that help in the system-wide approach, then we will cost share with them for funding on that. So it's kind of a unique way of approaching flood control in the Central Valley. More applicable to the areas here is the statewide regional, the Flood Futures Report. So DWR and the Corps of Engineers went around all over California and tried to work with local agencies and entities to identify flood risks throughout California, to make recommendations on how to improve that and make that report to the legislature. And a draft report came out April of 2013, and comment periods closed, but I saw that you can still email any questions or concerns. There's a link on the webpage. So again, that's called the Flood Futures Report. And then another major project that the department's working on is North of Delta Offstream Storage Projects, which was authorized in the CalFed 2000 Record of Decision. So our office in Red Bluff is working on the SITES project, which is a proposed project west of Maxwell. It's a 1.8 million acre foot reservoir that's off stream, and it would be filled using existing Glen-Colusa Irrigation District Canal and the Tehama-Colusa Canal, and a new proposed pipeline from the Sacramento River. So again, that's taking high flows off the Sacramento in the November, December, winter time when we can't capture those flows in Shasta, use those for off-stream storage, and you have the storage component of the reservoir itself, but having that additional reservoir low down in the system allows a lot more flexibility for the upper reservoirs, and it actually creates, in modeling studies, an additional 1 million acre feet in all the other reservoirs on top of the storage just from the one reservoir. So we're working on an environmental document on that in cooperation with Reclamation and a joint power authority, and we're hoping to get that draft EIR, EIS out in early 2014. So now let's focus on where DWR is working on the North Coast region. So we're participating with Reclamation in the state of Oregon on a Klamath Basin study. And this is a joint state and federal study, and it's designed to look at current and future water use needs and current and future water supply availability, and trying to do see where there might be shortages, and then on top of that, add on what the expected effects of climate change could be, and come up with some scenarios on what is the deficit, is there a deficit, how big of a magnitude of that, and what could we do about that. And so that just started last year, and it's a 2-year study that we're doing in cooperation with Reclamation and the state of Oregon. We also do a lot of technical monitoring and technical interactions with the folks in the upper Klamath River. So due to regulatory restrictions and the lack of precipitation, the Klamath project is not able to deliver the surface water that it's designed to do. And so a lot of times that's been made up with groundwater pumping. And we have some concerns on the long-term trends of that occurring for year after year. It seems like we come to the springtime, it hasn't rained as much as we would like, and we say, okay, one more year, we're just gonna pump some more groundwater, and hopefully next year we'll get more rain, or we'll get more regulatory relief, and we'll be able to deliver surface water, and it just never happens. And we're concerned over the long term of the sustainability of that aquifer, and we're monitoring that and providing input when we can. DWR also participates in the Trinity River Restoration Program, and the California Natural Resource Agency is one of the 7 members of the Trinity Management Council. I actually was doing that work back in 2005 for several years. And so we sit on the Trinity Management Council. We co-manage that with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, representing the agency. But we also sit on a lot of technical teams, and we've done a lot of engineering design for the stream restoration projects. So I have a strong affinity for the Trinity project. I actually met my wife. She was consultant for McBain and Trush over here. Met at the Weaverville Memorial Veterans Hall, and so I have... part of my heart is in that program. So let's see. And also the department has a long history working on that project way back when it was the Trinity, what was that called? The Trinity River Task Force. We actually had our employees sitting on suction dredges, sucking up decomposed granite from Little Grass Valley Creek. Used to just dump huge amounts of decomposed granite in the Trinity River, just bury the whole channel. And then we had the lack of flows from the diversion that couldn't flush that out. And so there was all these mechanical ways of trying to extract that. So the department's worked on that project for many, many years. So now I'm gonna switch gears on kind of what we do to kind of collect data for the department itself and then for others. So we operate and maintain a number of stream gauges throughout the North Coast area. We have water quality stations, we do biannual groundwater monitoring, and we do land and water use surveys. So Tito's sitting here, his section's done 2013, did Lake County, Del Norte, and Humboldt. They did in 2012, Modoc in 2011, Siskiyou and Mendocino in 2010. And what they do is they go out and they collect land use information and water use information, do balances, and they try to compare that year to year to see what the changes are. And that gets rolled up and put into the California Water Plan, but it's also available for locals to get that information too. So number 2 was, what's the difference between CDEC and Water Data Library? So CDEC, if you go to CDEC and get stream gauge information, that is like real-time stuff. It's not QA, it's not QC'd, anything. If you're doing a study where you need to know what the flow is on a stream gauge for long periods of time, you need to go to Water Data Library. That's where the QA, QC'd, and final data is actually stored. That's like our storage place for the department on all this water data. So I just wanted to make that pitch. We have a Eureka flood office that currently the Sherry that was working there moved to Caltrans, and we haven't backfilled that position, but we do have a presence here in Eureka for flood issues. And then on a smaller note, we do provide technical assistance, and really the people in Northern Region office, this is what we love to do, is actually get on the ground, help people with projects, do surveying, figure out water balances and stuff. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of funding to do that. But we do have leak detection equipment. Tito section does that. They can allow people to use the equipment. They can train people on how to do that. We have been able to provide some assistance during drought emergencies. In 2001 in Rio Del, we assisted them in identifying leak and coming up with some solutions. And then in 2009, we assisted Redway Community Services District. And while we might not have a lot of money and funding and on-the-ground support, we can say, oh, here's this stream gauge and here's this data, and it looks like the flow in August is going to be like that, and maybe you should talk to this, and you need this permit. So we can kind of help out just with logistics and some ideas. And again, I wish we had a large pot of money where we could do that full time. So thanks again for allowing me to participate in the conference and provide this overview of DWR's work in helping to manage water issues in the North Coast. So hopefully I covered how we manage it, the difference between CDIC and Water Data Library, and then the red button thing. So I was at a Trinity River meeting in the City Council chambers in Weaverville, and I was sitting up where the City Council, and it's a meeting that goes on, and I'm getting kind of bored, frankly. And I looked down underneath the table, and there was a big red button. And I go, oh, I wonder what that is. And so I pushed the button. Nothing happened, so I pushed it again. And I'm looking around the room thinking a light's going to go on or something, and nothing happened. So I don't know, well, and like 2 minutes later, two big sheriffs come in the office like that there. Who pushed the red button? That was the panic button for the city, the county board of supervisors when there's unruly people and they need the sheriff. So don't push red buttons if you don't know what they do. So again, thank you very much.